Hi there, my name is Maddie Schmidt and I work for College Sports Evaluation. I'm here today to walk you through our Team Genius application. This application is the on-site data collection we use for every single kid for every single eval. So this includes our full CSEs, our hitting only, our pitching only, and our defensive only CSEs as well. If you have any questions regarding Team Genius at any point in time, you can always talk to your regional event director, or you can email us at cs@cseval.com and we can answer your questions there as well. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started and get into the app. First thing you do when you download the app is open it up and you'll see this page. So mine's already filled out, but what it's going to ask you for is first your name, second your email, and then an access key. So walk through each of these just so we're clear on what each of these needs to be filled in with and why. So obviously your name is your name, pretty self-explanatory there. The email needs to be your email, preferably the email that you set up your College Coach account with. This just allows us to basically track who makes the comments and where and when. So if this is an email that's not, necessarily yours, comments can get lost or, evals can actually get lost on our back end. So we want to make sure that this email is solely yours and tracked to you. Team Genius won't send you any spam, so you don't have to worry about that. We just need it on our back end for tracking of evaluations. So the last piece I want to walk you through here on this start screen for Team Genius is the access key. You'll notice mine has already been inputted in there, but on the day of whatever event you are at, your regional event director or their site director will be able to give you this access key. Now, these access keys are usually, very specific to whatever pool of kids you have, whether it's infielders, outfielders, pitchers, catchers. That access key will grant you your group of 6 kids or less. And your group only. So you won't have to worry about sifting through different kids and finding your kids. The access key takes care of that for you. So your regional event director should have that, like I said, and if they don't, please remind them to give that to you because that's crucial to be able to sign in. So I'm going to go ahead and press the sign in button and we'll get started. The first time you sign in, what it'll do is it'll ask you if you need to agree to the terms of use. Just go ahead and click that button, select yes, and then it'll log you in just fine. If you have any questions or problems logging in, again, please take it to your regional event director and they'll be able to solve it for you. Once we're in here, you'll notice that on the top, it tells us what kind of pool we're in. So this one says test pool infield and 6 athletes of 6 athletes selected. So the check mark, the yellow check mark on the left-hand side, is the one that we use to make sure that all of our athletes are there and accounted for. If you unclick one of these, so like I unclicked Ann Perez, she will not show up in the evaluation once you press start. So make sure that if your kids are there, leave all of those yellow check marks checked. That's super important to remember because if they're not checked, like I said, they won't show up in the eval later. So keep those checked. And then when you're ready to go, you can always press the start button down at the bottom of the page. So once we press that start button, what it'll do is it'll bring up a list of scoring forms. So these are what we ask you to score the athletes on at every point during the day. So we'll walk through these real quick. Offensive power, offensive contact, defense, infield. So we have the like I said, the infield pool selected. So this one doesn't cover pitchers, catchers, outfielders, but it will cover all infielders. Arm velocity objective, so we'll ask you to record their overhand arm velocity here. Arm velocity subjective, that's where you can make comments about their overall arm path or their strength or stuff like that. So the subjectivity of arm velocity. Foot speed objective, same thing. If you're softball, it'll be a home to first, not home to home. If you're with baseball, it'll be a 60. We ask you to record those times in that section. And then foot speed subjective is going to be, again, that subjective aspect of running itself. Mental in-game execution. So this in-game execution is only for fast pitch. Baseball, you don't have to worry about this. That'll go away since we dropped the scrimmages at the end. And then college fit. So that's what that kind of toe looks like. It may not follow the schedule exactly depending on your event, but each will be extremely accessible at any point in time. And I will show you how to access this list once again. So we'll go ahead and get into offensive power first, and we'll walk through what the offensive section looks like. Once we get into the offensive power scoring form, I want to point out a few things first before we start getting into the meat and potatoes of how to score athletes. So first at the top, you'll notice that there's the athlete's name and the athlete's position. So we've got Jane Bob playing third base. Okay. The next thing I want to show you is how to get to the next athlete. So the gray arrow down in the bottom right corner here will get us to the next athlete. Now we are at Jim Bob, third base. And if I click that again, Bobby Joe, so on and so forth, Nicole Jones, Penelope Payne, etc., etc. So when we're scoring kids, we want to make sure that we use those arrows to get to the next kid, if at all possible. That way we're not backing in and out of the app. We just stay right here in this section and going back and forth between athletes. That's the easiest way to get around the app, and it saves you a lot of time and a lot of effort. So use those to the best of your ability. The next thing I really want to point out down at the bottom of the screen is going to be the microphone, that green microphone. Don't worry about using that. It actually records an audio file instead of voice recording and like typing, like almost like a voice dictation. If you want to voice dictate at any point in time, use the keyboard voice dictation application. Don't use this green arrow just to be safe. So next thing I want to point out is the blue clipboard icon. This is going to be super important for switching between scoring forms. So much like the screen we just saw before this, if I click that, it's going to bring up our list of scoring forms. Again, this is a super simple tool to use, so you don't have to back out of this app every single time. It's really easy as long as we're just using those icons properly. So we'll go through those reminders just again when we go to change scoring forms. But I just wanted to preface this section with that in case everybody's wondering, okay, what are those icons down at the bottom of the screen? So we'll run through this really quick and I'll show you guys how to score each individual athlete. So if I wanted to score Penelope on her bat path, what I would do is I would pick the arrow for drop down, and it gives me a list of options. Most of them are about 5 options to choose from based on that particular characteristic of power hitting. So if we're taking a look at bat path, we can pick any of these options. Now they kind of roll on a 1 to 5 scale, so 1 being poor and 5 being the best, obviously. So in this case, 1 is poor bat path and 5 is great bat path. So we want you to pick the option that fits the athlete the best. To select an option, what we're going to do is you just click the text itself. So if I want to say that she has an average bat path, I click average, and what it'll do is it'll give me a green check mark up in the top right corner right there, and that tells me that it has saved and it is good to go. All of these options will work very much the same. So for power hitting, we have bat path, connection, load, lower body explosion, and power ability. You'll notice there's one more below that, and that is the next steps section. What we want you to do in this section is choose the option that was above that fits the athlete best to work on. So you'll see everything we just listed: bat path, connection, load, lower body explosion, power ability. And power ability slapper, again, that's for softball only. So baseball, you don't have to worry about that. You won't even see that. All of those options, we want you to pick the one that they need to work the best on. So once you select one of those, we will give them a prescription to use and for them to be able to work on whatever you select in that next step section. So one thing I do want to preface this with is if I go into bat path again, you'll see poor bat path. Now, the kids on their end will not see poor bat path. They will see a couple sentences to a paragraph about, why their bat path is poor. They won't see the words poor bat path. They won't ever see just these raw comments. So if I go into connection, they won't say no connection. They won't see poor connection. They won't see any of that. So don't worry if you think it's harsh or if you think it's, less than desirable commentary. We do fill in commentary on the back end here once everything is scored. So please be honest. Please select the best fit for each of these kids because that's how they get their developmental feedback. The last thing I want to point out on this page, and this goes for all the pages, is the information icon you'll see underneath your drop down options. So that information icon, when you click on that, it will allow you to kind of read almost directions on what we would like you to do for that section. So if you're confused about what connection means, you click that info icon and it will give you the definition of connection and what we want you to look for. So that it goes for all of these different characteristics through every single scoring form. So if there's any point where you guys get confused, go ahead and click that. And if you are still uncertain of what we're asking, please talk to your regional event director and they can clarify that for you. So this is kind of how the rest of the app works with the drop downs. So we don't necessarily have to go through each of these portions, but just so you guys know, each of these characteristics has its own set of drop downs, meaning that the drop downs don't just go from poor to great. They will be individualized to the characteristic we are asking about. So I'm going to move on to our next section. And to do that, I'm going to click again the blue clipboard icon down at the bottom of the screen. And we're going to go ahead and skip to arm velocity objective. Like I said, the offensive contact and defensive forms look exactly like this one, just with different characteristics. So they work the same, the drop downs work the same, the saving works the same. It's all pretty similar across the board. So I'm going to skip to arm velocity objective. Now that we've switched over to arm velocity objective, you'll notice the first thing is that it's switched scoring forms without switching players. So whatever player you are on from the last scoring form will be carried over to the next one. So to change players, again, we can hit either of the arrows down at the bottom, so the little gray arrows to the left and right, or we can come up to the top left and hit our menu icon. This will give us an opportunity to see which players are there and choose players, as well as the criteria. So all of the characteristics that we ask you about will be there as well. So if we go back to players and let's say we go to Jim Bob, we now can score Jim Bob. So to score them on any sort of objective measurement, it will ask for a score just like this. And you press the word score and you can enter any score from there. So let's say we want to enter 80. What it'll do is it'll save and we can click anywhere on the screen to drop our numbers down. So that's saved with the green check mark in the upper right, and we can move on down from there. Don't worry about the -1 +1 on the right hand side. That just takes the value up by 1 or down by 1. It's much easier to just enter the numbers yourself by clicking again the word score and entering the numbers there. So that's what we have here for all of our objective measurements. So if I click the clipboard icon down at the bottom and I go to foot speed objective, it is the same sort of setup here. So this one is particular for a softball player. Baseball, you will have the same thing. Instead of H1B1, it's going to say 61, 62. And you just enter the score. We don't have to worry about the timer on this thing. All of our electronic timing systems will take care of that for you. You just enter what you see on those timing systems into the screen here. So I'm going to click the clipboard icon one more time, and now we're going to go down to our college fit. So as I mentioned previously, we're not going to run through this entire app because all of the drop downs work the exact same. And if you have any questions about any of the characteristics that we are asking about, please contact us. Please tell your red, or please check out that information icon again. That's going to be a lifesaver for you so that if you have any questions, they can get answered promptly. So again, we're going to go drop down to our college fit. Now that we're in the college fit section of the app, we're going to go over a few things. So first you'll notice we have our Jim Bob infielder, and all of these pillars are going to be specific to the infield position. So arm velocity, defense, foot speed, mental, offensive contact, offensive power, and overall college fit. So basically everything you've already commented on during the day has been condensed into a pillar and where you think that they fit ultimately at the college level at each of those different skill sets. So I'm going to scroll back up to the top and we're going to go over how to use the pillar itself. So if I want to select a level, all I have to do is take this yellow dot, I put my finger on it, and I drag upward or downward. So it's a freeform slider, so you don't have to worry about it clicking or notching anywhere. You can move it as much as you please. So when I place it, I'm going to place it at mid D1. What it'll do is it'll give me that green check mark signifying that it has saved your answer, and then we can move on. Now, I want to point something out when we do our pillar placement. This placement needs to be very intentional because we do score these on the back end. So a high D1 is definitely different than a mid D1, as well as, you know, any other level goes. So please mark these with intention and as much accuracy as you possibly can. The next thing I want to kind of go over with these sliders is that discrepancies are good. If you know, it's going to be really difficult to have a kid who is, you know, the same all the way across the board in every single skill set. I don't expect that to happen at all. So please make sure that you are being intentional again with the placement. If they are struggling in areas or need work in areas, please signify that with the sliders. I'll give an example here. So let's say this Jim Bob has a great arm velocity at the D1 level, but maybe needs to work on their overall defense a little bit. So what I would do is I would move this slider maybe a little bit lower in like the high D2, low D1 range. That level difference is just enough to signify to the kid that maybe they're not at that mid D1 level across the board. So like I said, any discrepancies in their game we want you to show, any weaknesses we want you to show with these sliders. The comments will reveal themselves as we go through the final product, but this is really what the kids pay attention to a lot. So please, again, mark these with intention. I know I keep saying it over and over, but it's really important to CSE. It's really important to the kids that they understand where their discrepancies and where their strengths are. So the last thing I want to mention before we wrap is the last pillar on this page. It is going to be our overall college fit. So our overall college fit slider is where you think they belong at the college level, period. So you don't have to worry about what each individual piece of their game looks like. It's kind of an overall picture of what their skill set is. So please mark this with how you see fit. Like I said, it doesn't necessarily have to match up to what you said above, but it is a true testament to what level they currently belong at. And I say currently because it is not a projection of where they could be. It is where they are at this point in time. So we may have some kids that are not ready, and that's okay. We may have some kids who are Power 5, and that's also okay. So please mark those as best as possible and make it an overall college fit. That's all I have for this training on Team Genius. If you have any questions at any time, please reach out to your regional event director and they can help you. So thank you for listening. Thank you for being a part of CSE. We greatly appreciate all of your effort, and good luck.